Many actors have passed on now legendary roles, often due to timing, doubts about the script, or scheduling conflicts, only to later express regret when those roles became iconic. Here are some famous examples of stars who turned down major roles and regretted it. Will Smith, Neo in The Matrix. Will Smith famously turned down the role of Neo in The Matrix, a decision he later admitted to regretting. At the time, Smith didn't fully grasp the Wachowskis' complex and groundbreaking vision. Instead, he chose to star in Wild Wild West, a film that flopped both critically and commercially. In hindsight, Smith acknowledged that his lack of understanding of the script led him to underestimate the film's potential. Keanu Reeves ultimately took on the role, and The Matrix became a cultural and cinematic milestone, redefining the sci-fi genre and boosting Reeves to global stardom. Smith has since reflected humorously on his decision, saying he likely would have messed up the role and that casting Reeves was ultimately the right choice for the film. Despite his incredible career, Smith has been candid about this being one of his biggest missed opportunities, especially considering how iconic the Matrix trilogy became. His story serves as a reminder that even the most successful actors can misjudge a project's potential, and that saying no to the right role at the wrong time can lead to years of what-ifs. Sean Connery, Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings. Sean Connery was offered the role of Gandalf in Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings trilogy, a part that would go on to become iconic under Ian McKellen. Connery turned it down because he didn't understand the script or the fantasy genre. At the time, the story's complexity and unfamiliar world didn't appeal to him, and he declined despite being offered a massive profit-sharing deal. That deal reportedly could have earned him as much as $400 million, had he accepted. While Connery never publicly expressed deep regret, it's widely believed this decision weighed heavily on him. Not long afterward, he took on The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which was poorly received and contributed to his decision to retire from acting in 2003. The Gandalf role not only became a cornerstone of modern fantasy cinema but also revived Ian McKellen's international fame. Connery's case is often cited as one of the most expensive missed opportunities in Hollywood history. Though his legacy remains strong, his refusal of the role has become a cautionary tale about how even legendary actors can misjudge the potential of a project, and miss out on being part of cinematic history. Tom Selleck was originally cast as Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark, but he had to turn down the role due to contractual obligations with the TV show Magnum, P.I. At the time, Magnum was just starting, and his commitment to the series prevented him from taking on other major roles. The timing couldn't have been worse. Raiders of the Lost Ark, directed by Steven Spielberg and produced by George Lucas, went on to become one of the most successful and beloved adventure films in cinema history. Selleck later expressed regret over missing out on the role, recognizing how much it could have changed his career. Though Magnum, P.I. became a hit and made him a household name, the Indiana Jones franchise became a defining part of Harrison Ford's legendary film legacy. There's even a screen test of Selleck as Indiana Jones available online, showing he had the look and charisma to potentially pull it off. Still, he's handled the missed opportunity with good humor over the years, often joking about it in interviews. Even so, turning down one of the most iconic roles in Hollywood history remains a major, what could have been, in Selleck's career. Gwyneth Paltrow was one of the actresses considered for the role of Rose in Titanic, James Cameron's 1997 epic that became one of the highest-grossing films of all time. Though she has never fully explained why she turned down the role, Paltrow was reportedly close to landing it before ultimately passing. The part eventually went to Kate Winslet, whose portrayal of Rose DeWitt Bukater earned her an Academy Award nomination and launched her into global stardom. In later interviews, Paltrow has hinted at regret, acknowledging that Titanic became a cultural phenomenon. She once said, "I know that the story is that I turned it down. I think I was really in contention for it, I was one of the last two." While she hasn't expressed strong public remorse, there's an undeniable sense that missing out on such a monumental film left a lasting impression. At the time, Paltrow was already an established actress with critically acclaimed roles, but Titanic offered a unique level of exposure and emotional resonance. Although her career has included major successes, including an Oscar for Shakespeare in Love, the decision not to play Rose remains one of the more intriguing what-ifs in Hollywood casting history. John Travolta was originally offered the role of Forrest in Forrest Gump, one of the most iconic characters in modern film history. However, he turned it down in favor of starring in Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, which was also released in 1994. While Pulp Fiction revitalized Travolta's career and earned him an Academy Award nomination, he later admitted that passing on Forrest Gump was a mistake. The role eventually went to Tom Hanks, whose performance as the kind-hearted and simple-minded Forrest earned him his second consecutive Oscar for Best Actor. The film itself became a massive critical and commercial success, winning 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Hanks's portrayal became deeply embedded in pop culture, with memorable lines like, "Life is like a box of chocolates." Travolta has publicly acknowledged his regret over the decision, recognizing that Forrest Gump was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. While Pulp Fiction gave him a remarkable comeback and is considered a classic in its own right, Forrest Gump reached an even broader audience and emotional depth. Though both films were career-defining in different ways, Travolta's choice remains one of Hollywood's most talked-about casting decisions. Emily Blunt was the original choice to play Natasha Romanoff, also known as Black Widow, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU. She was offered the role before Iron Man 2, 2010, where the character would make her debut. However, due to a contractual obligation with 20th Century Fox to star in Gulliver's Travels, Blunt had to turn down the offer. The role eventually went to Scarlett Johansson, who went on to portray Black Widow in multiple MCU films over more than a decade. Blunt has since expressed disappointment about missing out on the opportunity. While she hasn't voiced bitter regret, she has called it unfortunate and acknowledged that scheduling conflicts sometimes force actors to make tough decisions. She also praised Johansson's work in the role, saying she made it her own. The decision proved to be a significant one in hindsight. Black Widow became a fan-favorite character and a key figure in the Avengers franchise, culminating in a standalone film in 2021. Although Blunt has had a successful career with standout roles in films like Edge of Tomorrow and A Quiet Place, missing out on joining the MCU remains one of the most notable what-ifs in her career. Al Pacino was offered the iconic role of Han Solo in Star Wars, 1977, but turned it down, a decision he's jokingly regretted for years. At the time, Pacino was one of Hollywood's hottest stars, coming off the success of The Godfather and Serpico. However, when George Lucas sent him the Star Wars script, Pacino admitted he didn't understand it. He later said, "I gave Harrison Ford a career," poking fun at how massively successful the role became. Han Solo, played by Ford, turned into one of the most beloved characters in cinematic history, launching Ford into superstardom and anchoring a legendary franchise. While Pacino's career remained stellar, with roles in Scarface, Dog Day Afternoon, and Heat, missing out on Star Wars is still one of the most talked-about casting what-ifs in film history. Pacino has since reflected on the decision with humor and grace, admitting that not every great role is meant for every actor. Still, the idea of him as the roguish, wisecracking Han Solo offers a fascinating alternate reality. While Pacino didn't need Star Wars to cement his legacy, he's openly acknowledged the missed opportunity with a mix of self-awareness and classic Pacino charm. Matt Damon was originally offered the lead role of Jake Sully in James Cameron's Avatar, 2009, a groundbreaking film that became the highest-grossing movie of all time. However, Damon had to turn down the role because he was busy filming The Bourne Ultimatum, the third installment in the Bourne series. At the time, Damon prioritized the action franchise, which had been a major success for him. In hindsight, Damon has openly expressed regret about the decision. Not only did he miss out on starring in a massive blockbuster, but he also declined a lucrative 10% profit participation deal. This deal would have earned him hundreds of millions of dollars due to Avatar's unprecedented box office success and its sequels. Damon has admitted that turning down Avatar was one of the few roles he wishes he had taken. He recognized that the film's impact on cinema was huge, especially with its pioneering visual effects and use of 3D technology. Although he continued to have a successful career, the missed opportunity with Avatar remains one of Hollywood's most famous, what-if, stories, showing how even top actors sometimes have to make tough choices that don't always work out. Michelle Pfeiffer was offered the role of Clarice Starling in The Silence of the Lambs, 1991, a film that went on to become a critical and commercial masterpiece. However, she turned down the part because she found the script too dark and violent. At the time, Pfeiffer felt uncomfortable with the intense psychological thriller material and was unsure if she wanted to take on such a demanding role. The role eventually went to Jodie Foster, whose portrayal of the young FBI trainee earned her an Academy Award for Best Actress. Foster's performance is widely considered one of the best in her career and helped solidify the film as a classic. Meanwhile, Pfeiffer's decision to pass on the role remains one of the more notable casting what-ifs in Hollywood history. Years later, Pfeiffer admitted she struggled with the decision and sometimes wondered what might have been had she accepted. Though she went on to have an incredibly successful career with many acclaimed roles, missing out on The Silence of the Lambs was a moment of genuine regret. The film's cultural impact and Foster's award-winning performance highlighted what Pfeiffer gave up by declining the role. Michelle Pfeiffer was offered the role of Clarice Starling in The Silence of the Lambs, 1991, a film that went on to become a critical and commercial masterpiece. However, she turned down the part because she found the script too dark and violent. At the time, Pfeiffer felt uncomfortable with the intense psychological thriller material and was unsure if she wanted to take on such a demanding role. The role eventually went to Jodie Foster, whose portrayal of the young FBI trainee earned her an Academy Award for Best Actress. Foster's performance is widely considered one of the best in her career and helped solidify the film as a classic. Meanwhile, Pfeiffer's decision to pass on the role remains one of the more notable casting what-ifs in Hollywood history. Years later, Pfeiffer admitted she struggled with the decision and sometimes wondered what might have been had she accepted. Though she went on to have an incredibly successful career with many acclaimed roles, missing out on The Silence of the Lambs was a moment of genuine regret. The film's cultural impact and Foster's award-winning performance highlighted what Pfeiffer gave up by declining the role. Denzel Washington was originally offered the role of Detective David Mills in Say 7 and, 1995, the dark and gripping psychological thriller directed by David Fincher. At the time, Washington declined the part, reportedly due to concerns over the script's disturbing tone and graphic content. He wasn't sure about taking on such a grim role in a film that explored some of humanity's darkest impulses through the lens of a serial killer case. The role ultimately went to Brad Pitt, who starred alongside Morgan Freeman. The film became a critical and commercial success and is now regarded as one of the most influential thrillers of the 1990s. Pitt's intense performance, particularly in the film's unforgettable final scenes, helped solidify his place as a serious dramatic actor. Years later, Denzel Washington admitted that he regretted turning down the role after seeing the finished film. He praised the storytelling and performances and acknowledged that the film had much more depth than he had anticipated. While Washington has had an incredibly successful career filled with powerful roles, passing on Say 7 and stands out as one of the rare moments where even a legendary actor second-guessed a choice in hindsight. Nicolas Cage was offered the role of Aragorn in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, a character that ultimately became iconic through Viggo Mortensen's performance. At the time, Cage turned down the role due to personal and family obligations. The film's production required a lengthy shoot in New Zealand, which would have kept him away from home for an extended period, something he wasn't willing to commit to at the time. In later interviews, Cage admitted that he regretted passing on the opportunity, especially after seeing the massive success and cultural impact of the trilogy. Directed by Peter Jackson, The Lord of the Rings became one of the most beloved and influential film series ever, with The Return of the King winning 11 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Cage, known for his eclectic film choices, recognized that the role of Aragorn was a rare chance to be part of something epic and timeless. While his career has included critically acclaimed performances and box office hits, he's acknowledged that missing out on The Lord of the Rings was a lost opportunity to be part of film history. It's one of those what-if casting moments that fans still find fascinating. Julia Roberts was originally offered the role of Lee and Tui in The Blind Side, 2009, a heartwarming sports drama based on a true story. The film follows Tui, a strong and compassionate Southern woman who takes in Michael O'Hare, a homeless teenager who goes on to become an NFL player. Roberts turned down the role for reasons not publicly confirmed, possibly due to scheduling conflicts or lack of interest at the time. The role then went to Sandra Bullock, who delivered a powerful performance that earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress. The film was a major box office success and further solidified Bullock's place among Hollywood's most respected and bankable actresses. Though Roberts has never explicitly detailed her regret, it's widely reported in industry circles that she passed on a role that could have added another significant milestone to her already impressive career. Roberts, who had previously won an Oscar for Erin Brockovich, may have seen similarities between the roles but underestimated the impact The Blind Side would have. In hindsight, giving up a role that led to both critical acclaim and commercial success is often seen as a rare misstep in the career of an otherwise savvy and accomplished actress. Leonardo DiCaprio was originally offered the lead role of Dirk Diggler in Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights, 1997, a bold and critically acclaimed film about the rise and fall of a young porn star in the 1970s and 80s. DiCaprio was intrigued by the character and the script, which offered a raw, transformative role that many actors would dream of. However, he ultimately turned it down to star in James Cameron's Titanic, a decision that would launch him into global superstardom. While Titanic became a cultural phenomenon and remains one of the highest-grossing films of all time, DiCaprio has admitted in interviews that he sometimes regrets not working with Anderson, whom he greatly admires. He later said he believed Boogie Nights was an incredible film and praised Mark Wahlberg's performance, calling it amazing. Wahlberg, who ended up playing Dirk Diggler, received wide acclaim and credits the film for changing the direction of his acting career. Meanwhile, DiCaprio's decision, though not a failure by any measure, left him with a lingering what if. Despite Titanic's success, Boogie Nights offered the kind of gritty, character-driven storytelling DiCaprio has grown to favor, making the missed collaboration with Anderson one of his few career regrets.